Good evening, YouTubers. It's me, Johnny. It's Sunday night. I've been watching the news tonight. So far, I haven't heard too much about this new COVID variant. My understanding is parts of the world are panicking while other parts of the world are saying this is a nothing burger. So far, I have no idea what's going to happen. I thought maybe there'd be an announcement or maybe more information on more countries closing down. But so far I've seen they're just canceling flights from South Africa to mainly Europe and North America. And I want to say Hong Kong, but I can't remember. So they're basically shutting down flights from Southern Africa to most of the world. So maybe that's all that will come of this. I was looking at futures prices for the U.S. indices. Almost all the indices are up, like the S&P 500, the Tech, the NASDAQ, the Dow. Then I was looking at, I think gold is up a teeny tiny bit. The dollar is now kind of last Friday, the last trading day, which I think was Friday, just minimal trading for the holiday. And the dollar really sold off quite a bit. The bonds really rallied like 10%. Now, I didn't look at T-bond futures or anything, but a few of the dollar trading pairs the dollar is now rallying, and kind of 1/3%, nice rally, like on the euro. And quite a few of the cryptocurrencies, like the whole spectrum, like the top 50, 100 cryptos are not all of them, but most of them are trading up 5, 6, 7, 8%. A lot of the metaverse currencies are trading up. Now, of course, that doesn't really mean anything. Monday could open up and there could be a lot of volatility up and down. My view is for right now, unless something really bad happens, markets are going to continue to rally. Now, because there was no news that I saw on the weekend of any central bank saying anything, I suspect markets are probably going to rally tomorrow. In fact, one news event I saw was the taper. Like, the Fed really hasn't tapered that much. I mean, I've said that in previous videos, but taper. Like, they're printing less money, but not by much. So the bond purchase, and I think the Fed was buying up purchases for like housing and stuff. I forget what housing bonds or what they're actually buying, but a lot of the things that they're purchasing, they're still buying. I think from what I saw, they scaled back 5 or 10%, which is to me almost nothing. So I saw a video today that was really fascinating. It's one of the bigger YouTubers out there. His view was basically the same as mine. He doesn't see interest rates going up or the Fed really raising rates. He's more like me. He sees the economy slowing down, the housing market slowing down, and maybe a small correction in the housing market. Now, I saw in some news outlets that there's going to be the Democrats and Republicans are going to try to pass some kind of nonsense to give first-time home buyers like more easier access to credit. I'll put it that way. And I don't know if that will happen, but it wouldn't surprise me. And that'll add more fuel to the fire because there's really not a lot of home building going on in the United States right now. So I would say that's going to push prices up. Maybe not right away, but over the next 2 or 3 years. But that's if they do all this new home buyer, incentives. I also saw in the news that the Democrats are going to try to bail out some union pensions. I have a pension from a few years, 5 years ago. And the last letter I got was 3 or 4 months ago. And they're very much underwater. And they have like a rating, like a color rating, like yellow is kind of bad, red is really bad, super red is like they're gonna default. It's in the red right now. They're not super red yet, but I suspect the pension I hold will probably be defaulted on, but I won't say 100%, because back when I was working, this was back towards when was it? It was the end of the Obama years. The unions were donating quite a bit of money to the Democratic Party to get Mrs. Clinton elected. It didn't amount to much. But anyways, one of their big things I wanted from those donations was to get their pensions bailed out. Now, from what I saw from my specific company I was in, they didn't really get any bailouts. And that's just the way it was. And I suspect with with Biden in power, they will try to re-push that through. I don't know if they will or not. But anyways, I digress a little bit. Even if all that happens, the purchasing power of a lot of pensions is just not going to be there anymore. And so that's what I think. Basically what I see happening is more and more inflation, but we'll peak. Inflation numbers will come back down, and then depending on these upcoming elections, probably inflation will go back up, because I don't really see the Fed slowing down or diminishing their taper and things like that. Now I want to make a few comments on some of the trends I see happening in the U.S. Like I've talked about previously, there's a lot more homelessness. You're going to see a lot more people losing their homes and going from a home to apartment to living in a van to living on the street. I was watching some videos tonight. It's really painful. A lot of American cities are really, really bad. I haven't been to Baltimore and Seattle in a long time, but I've seen the videos. I've seen the videos of of like the West Coast, like from Southern California to up into Oregon and Washington. Anyways, a lot of these cities look like burned out third world countries, or some of the places I used to visit in the Philippines. It looks really bad. Another trend you're seeing that's going to, in my opinion, crime is going to go up along with homelessness. One trend you're seeing that I don't think is going to reverse is these smash and grabs where 20, 30, 40, 50 people go into a big department store or an CVS, like a drugstore, or any kind of high-end shop. They're just going to go in there and rip as much stuff off as they can, because they know they understand they're not going to get prosecuted. Who knows, that may change, but in the next few years, I could see the law changing. But before that happens, I see just more and more crime. I just want to make a note of that. If you live in the States, you should prepare yourself for a lot more crime. And the federal government not really going to do much about it. In fact, I saw some news stories where the police, they're trying to crack down on that, but they're not very successful. But I don't, ultimately, from what I heard, they're not going to really do much about it, because they have their hands tied a lot. And the politics right now doesn't seem to be where they want to really do much about it. In fact, I have family members in Minnesota, and there was just another news story. I can't remember what store it was. I want to say Nordstrom, but I'm not even sure Nordstrom's in Minnesota. But one of the big, I think it was a department store got, it was a smash and grab after they were shut, I think, and I don't know, they must have took thousands of dollars worth of products and things. What's my point is the character of let's say 20 or 30% of the United States population it's so bad now, they would prefer just to steal stuff as opposed to working. Now, I'm not really trying to make a value judgment. I'm just trying to point out we're at the point now where people won't even work for 12, 13, 14, 15 bucks an hour. They would rather just commit crimes, and then some people shoot people. Like, I see a lot of violent crime going to go up in the next few years. And I also want to make another point. A lot of small business owners can't get employees for, like, let's just say 15 to 20 bucks an hour, or even less. But if you have a small business and it's reliant on cheap labor, I see those businesses going out of business. Now, that's just my opinion. This is a trend that I think, this is going to sound like a little out there, a little crazy, but like, my opinion is the powers that be are using coronavirus to basically bankrupt a lot of small businesses. I don't just mean in the U.S., I mean all over the world, from Australia to the United States to Canada. If you may have noticed, a lot of businesses are getting businesses that do actually get bailouts are usually businesses that have a lot of capital to hire the lawyers to fill out the paperwork to get these PPE loans that I'm not sure if they're still doing them, but basically you have to have connections, enough money to hire lawyers and accountants to figure out the paperwork and then file the paperwork and actually get the money. So a lot of your small businesses just getting by, they just don't have that kind of money. They're just folding. They can't even hire. Like over the holiday weekend, from what I saw in the news, there were restaurants that couldn't even get people to come in to work. And these are kind of more the chain restaurants, I noticed. So they're just shutting some of these places down. So a lot of what would be entry-level jobs for young people nowadays, I think are going to go away and be automated. So kids coming up now won't have the opportunities to gain experience, to work up the ladder and get better paying jobs. I think college for a lot of people is going to be out of reach. Basically what I see happening is there's going to be a lot of automation. There's going to be a lot of softwares that are going to be taking away a lot of jobs. That's going to create a lot of crime. And I'm getting to my other trend. That leads me to talk about the black markets. Now I've been seeing a few YouTubers, not many, talking about how the black markets are a lot of crime that used to go on in the 70s, 80s, and very early 90s are coming back. Now I know we've had a lot of viewers who say, well, we've always had that, but it's actually been on the decline quite a bit. And in the past, people went to jail for a lot of these things like drug dealing, stealing, things like that. But nowadays, when people commit these crimes, they don't go to jail. Like we saw, I think it was in Denver. I apologize, I can't remember. But the guy who ran over those people, like that guy was released on bail for already committing a lot of crimes, and then he went out and killed a bunch of people. It's sad to say, but I expect that will continue. There's a lot of envy and anger right now. And there's a lot of people who are just going to steal to get what they want, and they're just going to hurt people because they can't have what other people have. And what that's going to do, as we've seen, a lot of people are not willing to work for these jobs that pay, I'm just going to say 15 to 20 an hour. That's my reference because the last time I was in the States, I was in Phoenix, and that's about what the wages are now. But if people are not going to do that, what they're turning to is more crime. And what I see happening, you would think with all this technology, law enforcement would be arresting a lot of people. Now, I think they will, but I think there's going to be a lot more white-collar crime, and there's going to be a lot more just traditional crime like drugs and stuff like that. And the people who are in those rackets, they're going to gain so much money right now, they're going to be insulated for being prosecuted. Now, I recognize that's a pretty bold thing to say, but I think we're already seeing that happen. People are getting insulated. They're getting smart in how to use LLCs. They're getting smart in how to use lawyers and accountants. And they're getting really smart in how to bribe people in the U.S. So this is a thing where I just see, like, I'll just give you an example of kind of what I call a white-collar crime. And I want to talk about this because this is related to credit. A lot more people are going to get into credit card fraud. Right now, from some business people I talk to in the States, a lot of small businesses won't accept credit cards. Not all, just some, because of all the chargebacks, because of all the fraud. Well, more and more people, they're using their credit cards to pay all their bills to get by. They've probably drawn down their savings. Well, now they're using their credit cards and then just charging things back saying they didn't get what they paid for. So more and more vendors are saying they don't want to take credit cards. In fact, it's going to get to the point where we have what people call, like in China, this credit system. Well, people can see who's actually charging back. Credit card companies sees it's not people in the upper classes doing this, people in the lower classes. So they're going to shut down people's credit limits. They're going to lower them. They're going to shut their accounts off. They're not going to let charges get charged on their accounts. That's a trend you're going to see. You're going to get to the point where you're practically going to have to call up and tell your credit card companies where you're using it. Will they okay the transaction? So be prepared for that. Where like it used to be, you could use your credit however you wanted. It could be to the point where now you'll need to get permission. Anyways, what I mean by some of this white collar crime is like people set up LLCs, they build up credit, they get credit, and then they buy things with that credit, flip it, and then they don't pay their bills, and they put the money in other LLCs or put it offshore. Now, wealthy people have done that for generations. That's hopefully the viewers are understanding that. And then they just go to court and they drag it out in court, and then they usually, even before it gets to court, settle for 10 cents on the dollar. This is like something that's been going on a long time. I see that kind of stuff coming back more and more. And the reason I mention it is because a lot of this white collar crime is not really going to be prosecuted. And if you look at it this way, if you are like a drug dealer and you're going to get 15 or 20 years for selling drugs, and then if you're a drug dealer, you say, oh, I'm going to get into credit card fraud. I might get 2 years, I might not. They're going to weigh that, and they're going to get into credit card fraud. So I see a lot of this white collar crime just going to explode and go through the roof. And while all that's happening, you're going to have regular crime. So I think, I remember as kids in the 80s, in the 90s, where you had a lot of these black markets where you could do cash, work for cash. I even remember how easy it was to get fake driver's license. I mean, real government issued driver's license. I don't see that coming back, but people would do that, get whole credit in that name, traveling documents, just everything. And that may happen in other countries. I don't know if it's going to happen in the U.S. I don't see it happening in the U.S. as much. But anyways, I just remember the books are written in the late 70s, early 80s, like, how to work for cash, how to do this, this and that, and profit from kind of the black markets. I kind of see that coming back. And I think it's going to be bad for society, but it's just a trend we're going in. And then I see more, there's going to be more and more white collar crime. And then there's, like I said, more homelessness and all that. There's going to be less and less jobs for people who don't really have valuable skills. And I think most Western countries are not going to be able to handle this too well. I don't want to use UBI to kind of bribe the population. Personally, that's why I think all this COVID stuff is going to drag on and on and on, because they just recognize that we're not going to have a prosperous economy like we used to. And I don't really see a solution to it, except for people who want to be productive are going to have to move to states within a country that is more freedom oriented, like in the U.S., Florida and Texas. Like in Mexico, there's some states now that want to have an internal passport, so you can't cross a straight line. So there's going to be, like, there's already been migration to Mexico from the dangerous parts of Mexico to the safer parts. That's just going to continue. This is like what's happening with all these unemployment all over the world, and with the corona shutting down the world for almost 2 years now, you're going to have more migration into Europe, more migration into the U.S. They're going to do whatever they can to stop it. It's going to just cause a lot of dislocation. So I see the solution that there's really only two. You're going to have to move to one part of the world. If you're in one country, move to a part of the country that's where you can live, work, and play and do what you want, or you're going to have to leave that country. And what I saw, an acquaintance of mine, he's in Thailand, Dev, he was talking about, should you come to Thailand or not? He was saying, if you're going to come for a 2-week holiday, no, just wait. But if you're coming to leave like Australia, the United States, or parts of Europe, you better get over here before you get stuck again. Because what's happening in the online world is just going to keep booming. And that's another trend I don't see stopping, where more and more wealth is going to be created in the online world and creating products in the online world, services in the online world. Like I've said, like repeatedly, you can now teach English online for 15 or 20 bucks an hour, get clients from, Brazil. I mean, I try to stress this in my videos. Like one of my friends, I think he's in Indonesia now, but last I heard he's going to the Asian countries, but he teaches like online. He has clients in Mexico that pay him 20, 25 bucks an hour. And he doesn't, this is years ago, he never lowers his prices. So I imagine he's raised his prices, but it's getting to the point now where you can work online, work 20, 30 hours a week, earn dollars, and just live in a country that's a lot freer and kind of do what you want. And this online world is going to create a lot of good opportunities for people, but there's also going to be a lot of crime in this online world, a lot of fraud and stuff. And I won't comment too much on that. Like if you're in a first world country, you might know a lot of the OnlyFans ladies are really popping up as people lose their jobs. And as a lot of women don't work these low-paying jobs, they're going to do that more and more. So there's that. And it seems like from a cultural point of view, people want to tolerate that, and they don't really care anymore. I don't really have any, I don't have too many comments on that. I don't know what to make of that. But anyways, I'm going to start making more videos on what are your options, where can you live. I think that's what I'm going to take the channel towards. I'm going to get a camera and start doing a little bit more traveling and showing more places you can live if you choose to exit the U.S. My only advice is right now, if you can find a legal residence that doesn't cost you too much, that you qualify for, I would grab it now. And I'd be willing, if you don't have any skills to work in the online world, I would encourage people to learn those skills. And it also suggests you not be too reliant on these government promises. I'm not sure how much longer. I think the government's going to be paying out their obligations and all that, but in the back of my mind, I'm wondering if they're going to shut off the banking so you can't use your ATM overseas, or say you have your money deposited in a U.S. bank, you're a pensioner, and then you spend it in Mexico. I don't know how much longer that'll last. I don't think that will ever stop, but you never know. And then on top of that, like what's happening in a lot of countries right now, I still see more currencies not collapsing, but going down against the dollar and the euro. And that's so I can see more and more countries are going to just have exchange controls. So if you happen to be in a country with exchange controls, your ATM and your credit card will be shut off. So even if you want to leave, they're going to lock your money in the country that you have it in. So I would encourage people to get some of their wealth either offshore or into US dollar accounts or euro accounts that's beyond the reach of their local government. That's all I'm going to say about that. The cost of doing that's gone really through the roof. I was just thinking about it today. It used to be in Central America, you could start up like a SA corporation for like $500, $1,000, $1,500, and you would pay $50 or $100. And now I think it's $3,000 or $4,000, and now you pay $200 a month to maintain it. And that's just for a simple company and a bank account that goes with it, a US dollar account, a corporate account. One of the advantages, though, is a lot of times when exchange controls are put on, a lot of times if you have a corporate account, that will be the last place where they'll freeze the accounts, where they'll hit the personal accounts first, and then later on the business accounts if it gets that bad in that country. But still, I would encourage the viewers to realize that they're going to have to find alternative payment methods to get paid and to spend their money in the world, if it ever comes that. Right now, I don't think that's going to happen, but I just see more and more devaluations. I guess I'm not shocked, but from what I've seen in Latin America, for my research, for my plans and what I'm going to do, I am really surprised how cheap parts of Latin America are going to get. And that's with all the rising prices that's going on. So that is kind of interesting. I was just looking today at all the migration. I don't think people in the first world realize how much migration is going to come. Just today I was reading an article, there's going to be an election in Honduras. In Honduras, it looks like the country's going to swing to the left. It may or may not, I don't know. But if they start, like Chile's really swung to the left, and if these policies create a lot more economic dislocation, all those people in those countries, or much of them, the lower classes, they're going to come to the States or Mexico. People who have no skills, people who have skills will just stay in the country, and they'll just go into the country that's the safest part of the country, and they'll earn their living online. And actually, there's actually more and more people doing that. I know quite a few Latins who do pretty well, and they're not migrating. They're just staying, or getting their passports and opening up their options just like everyone else. It's about what I can say about that. And so far, from what I've seen, I think Thailand and the Philippines are going to open up, and I think Cambodia has. I'm not sure if they actually have. And I'm not convinced that all these countries are going to shut themselves off from tourist travel, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm kind of looking to see what Thailand does, because I think a lot of countries are going to copy Thailand. If they close down their economy again or whatever, then they'll close. If they don't, they're going to just stay open. I don't see how a lot of these countries can really keep their economies closed, but we'll have to wait and see what they decide to do. I could tell you it's really hurting the tourism there, because the people I know there have basically said the country's empty. There's a lot of cool things you can do there too in those countries if you're interested in it. And Asia isn't that expensive. In general, I would say Latin America is a little bit more, but Asia is a little less, but it kind of depends what you're doing. Anyways, that's it for tonight's video. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I'm going to try to make more and more content on what I think people's options are to survive and prosper in this kind of new, I don't know what to call it, this new chaos, this age of chaos or age of tyranny. I would like to say most of these first world countries are going to come out of it and, go back to freedom and liberty. But it looks like to me, in Australia, the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, although there's a lot of protesting going on, it seems like in a lot of those countries, it's like part of the countries will be okay, other parts won't. But again, I don't know. I'm so far from what I've seen in Eastern Europe and Western Europe, they're just going to go with these QR code things you're going to have on your phone. That's another thing. Depending on where you go, you have to constantly show your QR code. That's one reason I've been waiting for a long time to see that would stop it. For some of the countries that I'm looking at, you still got to show your QR code everywhere you go. That's why I'm looking at Colombia more. You can fly in. My understanding is you can fly in without a COVID test, but you got to fill out I call it a health pass, but it may not be a health pass. But this is another trend I don't really like, but you have to pre-fill out a thing after you buy your ticket, and you have to give your specific dates when you're going to arrive, when you're going to leave, and all that. Now I realize that's not a big deal, but it could get to the point where you're going to be constantly having to fill out on the computer in many countries where you are, what you're doing, leave when you say you're going to leave and all that kind of thing. And probably there's going to be increase in fines and things. That's the one thing I don't like about all this. I was hoping Colombia to be completely open. You didn't have to fill out any of that out. There's still quite a few countries where if you want to go, you got to pay for health insurance. And some of these insurance costs are coming down, but some of them, to me, seem kind of high. What it seems like is they want to discourage traveling. So that's why I'm right now only looking at Latin America. And I've actually figured out a way. If you want to live in Latin America, you want to go to Asia, you can fly out of Brazil quite cheap. How long that will last, I don't know. But you could fly out of Central America or Brazil for the same price and go to Asia or Europe. It's kind of interesting. Anyways, that's it for tonight's video. Trying to think of anything else I want to say. I just think more and more if you're going to live overseas, you're going to have to really be adaptable, and you're going to have to work for yourself. I think the days of working for companies is coming to a close unless you have really, really unique skills. Anyways, that's it for now.